I come out to fight. I come out to knock people out. That's all I want to do.
I'm looking for exciting. I'm looking for flashy. I'm looking for somebody who has that thing. Sean O'Malley is that thing.
There's a thing about him, a special it factor, and he's got it, and he's got it in spades.
People are drawn to Sean O'Malley.
You don't know now you know. It's time to buy stock in Sugar Sean O'Malley.
All right, everybody. Welcome into another episode of Around the Octagon. Today we have Luke and Ryan here. Unfortunately, Colin could not be with us tonight, but I'm excited to hear his input after he tunes in tomorrow morning. So we'll start off with some fight news. To start off, we have Khalil Rountree versus Alex Proton Pereira announced for UFC 307. Do you guys think that Rountree is getting a little bit disrespected here on social media and with the odds, or do you think it's pretty much exactly how it should be?
I didn't even look. What are the odds for that fight?
I'm pretty sure Proton opened up at like -4, 450, 500.
No, it's a pretty massive step up in competition. I mean, you never know though. Like every dog does have his day, and there are ways for Rountree to get it done, especially like if he hits him with those like just violent strikes where he has a guy on the ground. Assuming he can knock down Pereira and starts just body kicking, like soccer body kicking him on the ground, like those are just like wicked strikes to see out of any fighter, and Rountree just seemingly has enough power to do it, and is just like violent. It's the only word I can describe Rountree with is just violent.
Yeah, I think violence is a perfect word to describe him. I was actually listening to the Joe Rogan podcast that Rountree was on a few weeks ago, right before he got the title fight offer, and he was actually about to hop into some jiu-jitsu competition because he was a little bored, and Rogan was sitting there going, no, please don't. So
yeah. I saw that too, and like a week later he was announced for a title fight. So
yeah, I really wish that he hopped on Rogan right after the title fight, because I felt like it would have been cool to get his perspective on this fight going into it. But nonetheless, I do think Proton gets the job done there. Luke, I assume you're probably on the same page as us.
Chalk that up as a yes.
Yeah, I'll chalk that up as a yes. Luke, your audio's cut out right now. All right. Well, we'll move on to the first fight of the night and give Luke a little bit of time to recover here. So to start it off, we have Ral Rosas Jr. coming in at -950. Rosas has a record of 9-1 and is 3-1 in the UFC. Going up against, well, this is a tough name to pronounce, but I'm going to go with Aorkang at +550. Who has a professional record of 25-11 and is 3-1 in the UFC. We'll kick it off with you, Ryan. Ryan, what do you think about Ral Rosas going into this fight?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's quite obvious, Mexican-born fighter. The UFC threw him a can, and all signs, like the odds, I think the odds are correct here too. Aorkang's 25-11. 3-3 in the UFC with 1 no contest or something like that. It's either a no contest or a draw. It's just one of those guys who is there for Ral Rosas Jr. to beat up on and make himself make a name for himself, especially if that Mexican Independence Day crowd. I don't see how Aorkang can get this done. Maybe just size, but an overall experience being 31 years old. Other than that, give me Ral Rosas Jr. just to out-grapple him and probably find the sub near the end of round 1 or round 2.
Yeah, I agree. Luke, you back in function here?
Oh, no, you guys let me know. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yep. You sound good. Perfect.
Yeah, I switched rooms, dealing with some technical difficulties in this new place. But yeah, I agree. I think this is a perfect way to start off the card. I was listening to an interview earlier this week, and they're like, the worst thing for this card to start off with is to have a no finish first, like a go to decision first fight. I think when you give Raul this opportunity, I think he's way better on the ground than this guy. I think it's an easy sub spot. He's obviously a heavy favorite. I think it's like between -200, -400 for him to sub. I think it's just one of those cards that you can't start off boring. Mexican Independence Day, everything is played out perfectly for him to start this card off with a bang. I don't think he knocks him out, which I've heard some predictions online saying he's going to knock this guy out. I know he has improved on the stand-up, but not that much. I'm going to take him sub.
Luke, I think it's a very good point you made right there about opening up the card with a bang, because I kind of took a different viewpoint on that I know Ryan had as well, where I thought Rosas should have been potentially in that main card or right outside of it. But now that you bring up the point where you want to start off the card with a bang, it's a very highly anticipated card that can make a lot of sense. And that really could be the reason why that Dana White slotted him in this opening fight spot. So I actually like that point a ton. But yeah, I'm with you guys 100% here. I feel like this is just a position for Ral Rosas to succeed. I mean, he'll utilize his wrestling, but I'm just really curious to see how much his striking has improved and if it has improved, because like we all know, we heard him just come out the other day and say, I want to be retired by 25, youngest champ ever. And, you know, if he wants anyone to take him seriously, that striking has to get better. And I know he's just 19, but I'm curious to see how much better he has gotten since we've last seen him. But regardless of all that, I have Rosas via sub round 1 or 2 probably.
Yeah, I think this is an early parlay piece for our safe parlay. I think the odds are going like more negative, so higher in his favor, so we might want to lock that in soon.
Yeah. Well, we'll go into the second fight of the night. We have Edgar Suarez at plus 190 versus Joshua Van at minus 235. Edgar is 11-5 with while being 1-1-1 in the UFC, where Van has a career record of 10-2 and is 3-1 in the UFC. Ryan, how you liking Van in this one, a young prospect?
It's a tricky one, especially because Van's taking this up on short notice. He fought Charles Johnson in his last bout a couple months ago, and he got KO'd pretty badly with a
100%
wicked uppercut. But then again, it's like also Joshua Van is definitely still one of those rising prospects in the flyweight division. He's an exciting fighter. He rips mean shots to the body, like wicked combos, targets the body, tires opponents out, and usually does find the finish. I think with Johnson's size in that and the overall reach advantage and like the problem he poses with flyweight just because he's so long and lanky, which is something you don't typically see. That's what gave him problems in that fight. So I think them being evenly matched size-wise definitely favors Van in this, although the reach is still very concerning. I think it's like Joshua Van has a relatively small reach of like 65 to Chairez's 71-inch reach. So decent reach advantage, but I don't see much out of Chairez in the striking department the way I do Van. Chairez does have a pretty wicked ground game, which it makes this fight interesting because I really haven't seen Joshua Van, or we haven't really seen Joshua Van on the ground in any of his fights. But nasty guillotines, slick subs out of Chairez, gave Tetsuya Taira some problems. You know, had some like pretty good moments against Tetsuya Taira, who's now like ranked number 5 and is on his way to a title fight. But I think just given the lack of competition besides Tetsuya Taira that Edgar Chairez faced, give me Van. Give me Van by KO. Or UD.
Yeah, Ryan, I'm going against you here. I think, like you said, I think it's a huge – sorry, I'm just getting everything set up. So apologies if I'm a little behind, but he's got a huge reach advantage, right? And I think that when you're at this low of a weight, and the Tetsuya Taira fight he didn't get finished. He lost in there. He had some moments, but not a lot of them. I think I'm just going with the guy with the reach, and the Mexican. I think for a fighting culture like Mexico and to have their own day for fighting in the UFC, I think that's going to really fire up a lot of fighters on this card. And we'll get to there some big name fighters. I think I'm going to surprise you guys with some takes I got coming up on the main card, but I'm going to go with Chairez on this one. Right now, I don't know what the odds are. I don't know if you guys mentioned them, but on UFC, they got him at minus 180. So still a favorite on my end, but I think you could easily see this line flip before the fight starts.
Incoming Luke Ortega bomb when it comes to the main card after that comment, dude. Come on.
I don't know yet. I'm so thrown up. That's one of those. We'll get there. I don't want to jump.
So I'm circling back here. I'm just going to say this right now. I really do not plan on betting on Joshua Van because I was pretty all over him when he fought Charles Johnson. And after that fight, I said to myself, okay, you're not betting on this guy. And then I look back on it and I'm like, he is only 22 years old. So to count him out now, I can't do that. There's much room to improve there, a lot of room to grow. But in this one, I just think Van does have a super high output, and he is always freaking moving. So I do favor Van in this one. But again, I probably won't bet it unless the beers are talking, but they probably will be when the fight starts. But as of now, I'm not betting it. So we'll go over to the third fight of the night. We have Yasmin Jauregui at minus 550 versus Ketlin Souza at plus 375. Yasmin has a career record of 11-1 and is 3-1. Can Can you guys hear that in the background? All right. I have little people yelling around me. And then Souza has a record of 1-1 in the UFC. Yasmin, being the heavy favorite, comes in 5 years younger. How do you think this going plays out, guys?
I have Yasmin Jauregui winning by knockout. I know she was this really highly rated prospect when she came in and she got finished in 30 seconds, but since then, her last fight, she looked really good, and she's like kind of shown that she still is that prospect on the rise for women's fighters. So,
yeah, I'm right with you. I think I'm impressed with some of the fights she's put together since that first loss. There's not much to say on the other end. Her opponent, Souza, I don't know much about. I think when you get odds like this, disparaging odds like this, you just ride with the favorite here. One of those fights where first women's fight of the night, not going to put too much bread on it. Might not even throw it in any parlay pieces, but definitely want Yasmin to get this one done. Same thing, man. I think I'm going to ride with a lot of Mexicans on this card, and I think it's easily backed, information that they're some of the early prelims, some of the prelims, you're going to favor these Mexicans. They're going to go in there, get it done most likely. So.
Yeah, I'm pretty much right with you guys. I mean, I think this is a pretty square play, to be honest. This fight will predominantly take place in the feet, or at least it should. And Yasmin should lead in the striking department, and she has a higher output by around 1.5 significant strikes per minute. And if she's just going to coast on her feet, higher output, she'll get the job done. But I will say, a lot of times we talk about taking these women fights overs. There are 16 combined finishes between the two, so I will not be touching the over on this one. But yes, I do have Yasmin as well. So let's move on to the fourth fight of the night, and this one I am pumped for. We have Manuel Torres coming in at -120 versus Ignacio Bahamondes at +100. Torres is 15-2 while being 3-0 in the UFC, and Bahamondes is 4-2 in the UFC with 10 TKO career wins. Luke, I'll start with you on this one. What are you taking in this fight?
Yeah, we were bouncing back a little bit earlier today on this fight. I'm all over Torres. I don't know if you have the books open. I haven't checked it yet, but I think he opened as the underdog. I'm all over this guy. I think he's a beast. I think this is going to be a great fight. Let's just start off. Both guys, young, upcoming guys. I just feel that Torres has a little bit more power in his hands. And like you said, when you get in a card like this, one of the biggest cards ever UFC's put together in the sphere, there's just an opportunity to make a name for yourself. And I think Bahamondes is just like the step in competition that Torres needed to take. And I think he gets him out of here, man. I think he does it in surprisingly good fashion. And I'm all over Torres here. If he is an underdog, I think that line's going to move. But if he is an underdog, first underdog of the night for me.
Yeah, I love the Torres pick too. I especially love the round 1 KO out of Torres. Is just a little prop bet to throw on the side for this one. I mean, I think I saw something earlier today. It was like they need Jimmy John's with the Jimmy John freaky fast finish. They need to make a sandwich for Torres if he gets it done in round 1 again, because I think all 3 of his fights he's gotten that recognition. Every single one getting put out in the first round. And the other thing I think is exciting about this fight is both guys are tough. And if Torres doesn't get, if either of them don't get each other out in the first round, just expect a war, which is always exciting for the fans. So, but like I said, I think Torres just packs a little more power in his punches. If Ignacio Bahamondes can keep him at range of kicks, expect a war, like a 3-round war. Who, at that point, if it goes to decision based on damage, I have no idea who's winning that one. But I expect Torres to get him out there in one.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, go on, Luke.
I think it's his 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 last fights, with the last 3 being the UFC, 4 if you count Contender Series, all first round finishes.
Jimmy John's freaky fast finish.
Yeah, I am also on Torres in this one. I mean, the guy has 14 finishes and 15 wins. That's awesome. But you look at both of these guys, both of them have insanely high outputs, and this one will be crazy fun to watch for the fans. Torres averages 8.14 significant strikes per minute. Let that sink in. To Bahamondes is 7.15 significant strikes per minute. That is just a crazy stat right there. I think Torres will lead in the wrestling department as well. And, I mean, they both have serious finishing ability, but I think Torres will find a sub in this fight, and I have Torres via submission.
Yeah, I think, like you said, Zach, I think he's good everywhere. both of them are good everywhere, but there's nowhere that Torres is worse at. That's just how I feel. Like, I don't think he hits hard. I don't think Bahamondes hits harder. I don't think he's better on the ground. Any of that. I don't think he's got better cardio, even though we really haven't seen that at Torres. I just feel like this one's at these odds, it's just to take them. Pure value play.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so let's move on to the last prelim. We have Irene Aldana at -110 versus Norma Dumont at -110. This one is a pick'em. Aldana has a career record of 15-7 and is 8-5 in the UFC, compared to Dumont, who has a career record of 11-2, who is 7-2 in the UFC. I don't know about you guys, but for me, this one was tough to look at because you had Aldana, who has been in there with the absolute best. Granted, hasn't necessarily looked the best against the absolute best, but she's been in there with them. Compared to Dumont, who's more, we haven't really seen her against that level of competition. She's had more of the lower level of competition, but it's a weird one to look at when you compare their track records and whatnot. So I want to hear your guys' input on this one.
I basically viewed this fight as a coin flip, and I think, like, from a bettor's perspective, given, like you said, the experience of Irene Aldana and the competition that she's faced versus Norma Dumont, who's up and coming, 11-2, on the rise, hasn't faced that level of competition. This is like a way for her to test herself. But I think with that crowd advantage, that Mexican Independence Day blood flowing through your veins, just give me Irene Aldana to get it done by decision. I think that's just going to be the deciding factor, is when you hear the crowd chant your name, and every time you do something, you just hear like screams from the crowd and everyone's booing your opponent. I think that's going to get to you. I think it's going to fire her up and diminish Norma Dumont mentally, and I just have Irene Aldana just getting this one done. I don't think it's going to be the greatest fight of the night. I don't think it's a fight of the night contender, but I think the Mexican Independence Day is what's going to play the biggest advantage here.
Yeah, I think you guys hit on a lot of things that I was going to mention. I'm actually a fan of Irene Aldana. I like I like her style. Obviously, when she fought for the belt, that she did not perform, but you're going against the GOAT. I think this is a classic grappler versus striker. Aldana's got great boxing. Obviously, she lost. She's only fought once since Amanda Nunes retired, and what was that? Almost 2 years ago, if not more. So she's taking her time, but at the same time, she's still ranked, number 2 right now. She's right there in the mix for another title fight. If she wins this one, knocks out a contender. It's kind of like when DP, it's a crazy comparison, but when DP won, what was that? Who do you fight? The French guy. I'm blanking on his name.
BSD?
Yeah, when he knocked out BSD, it was like, okay, you're kind of in the realm, but you're kind of being not talked about. If she wins this fight, she has a great shot at fighting for the title, kind of like DP did against Islam. I don't think anything like, what is she just going to grapple her? She has no knockout. Dumont has no knockout victories. 18% of her victories are by sub and 82% are by decision. I don't think Irene Aldana on Mexican Independence Day is going to go out there and grind out a decision or even fight to the decision. She's going to take this girl's head off. I got her by KO.
See, the only thing that concerned with that is I was watching her last fight with Macy Chiasson, and it was like she was getting worked in that fight, and then just threw like that. I don't know if you remember this, that weird up kick that just happened to like hit the liver, and then that's what got her to a title fight. So it's just like, I think she's the better boxer, and we'll pick her apart. On the field, we'll just pick her apart.
Yeah, exactly. Like Aldana went at 5 rounds with fucking the Lioness. Like, she's not getting subbed or knocked out by Norma Dumont.
Yeah, that's the thing about this one. But if you look at Aldana, I know in her last fight, I forget who it was against. Let me take a look.
Carl Rosa. She beat last.
Carol Rosa. Yeah, I don't even think she necessarily won that fight, to be completely honest with you. And I think that if that fight were to have gone the other way on the judges' scorecards, that Dumont would be coming in as a heavier favorite. So this is a weird way. I mean, not even a heavier favorite. She would be coming in as the favorite, since this is a complete toss-up. So this is kind of a weird way to look at it, but I didn't know how to decipher this one. But just given that information, Aldana is not going to get finished. I mean, if Amanda Nunes couldn't put her away, she's not going to get finished. Dumont is kind of a points fighter. She fights for those decisions.
Yeah.
So I have Dumont by decision, just because I feel like if Aldana did not get the nod, then Dumont would be the favorite. So I think maybe there's some sort of value there, but kind of a weird thought process for me, but that's kind of where my mind went in this one.
Yeah, I think if Dumont can get her down, that's a very real possibility. I'm just banking on that. I mean, Aldana's got pretty good takedown defense, not the best, but that's really what I'm banking on. I think the odds are pretty good for that too, for her right now. So I think this is a good parlay piece. But I could see it going either way. Not, it's not going to be in the safe parlay. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're riding Aldana for the value, just to throw it in there as a minus 110 to minus 110, just pick 'em fight. Yeah, I'd take Aldana.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on to the opening card of the the opening fight of the main card, I should say. It is Ronaldo Rodriguez at minus 150 versus Ode Osbourne at plus 110. Rodriguez is 16-2 and is 1-0 in the UFC compared to Osbourne, who is 12-7 and 5-5 in the UFC. This is a weird one to predict again because you have a mediocre Osbourne coming up against the up-and-comer who actually lost in the Dana White Contender Series a few years ago. So another interesting one to predict here. What's your take on this one, Ryan?
Yeah, I think Ronaldo Rodriguez gets it done. Only second fight in the UFC, and he's been put on the main card in front of Mexican, like you said, Mexican-born fighter, Mexican Independence Day, and Ode Osbourne's just. I don't even think experience plays into this. It's just like a wishy-washy career out of Ode Osbourne. He had one like nasty flying knee KO that got him onto the scene. And then since then, his career has just been like sort of journeyman-like, never really made him a name for himself. And I know, Zach, we talked about this where I didn't like the placement of this fight being on the main event of this pay-per-view. I think you could have went either way. I think Manuel Torres, Ignacio Bahamondes to open up a main event with Ral Rosas Jr. as the prelim feature would have been placement for me, but I don't set up these cards, so what do I know? That being said, Ode Osbourne's lost his last 2 fights via sub. Rodriguez won his debut via sub. I have Rodriguez getting it done by sub here.
Yeah, right with you here. I think you kind of hit it on Osbourne. He's like doing the podcast, I know, on the side. I don't know how fully in. He might be 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I think that happens to guys who come in with a lot of hype and then they kind of simmer out. And I think it's the opposite side of the card for Rodriguez. I think he's riding a little bit of, stardom. He's 1-5-6 straight. Obviously only 1 fight in the UFC, but you get that 1 fight and then you get put on this card. I feel like the odds are pretty accurate here. He's a favorite here. I think I'm just going to ride with that.
Yeah, I'm also. Favorite, right? He is the favorite. He's a minus 150. I'm also going to be on Rodriguez in this one. I think he should hold a wrestling advantage. Both guys don't necessarily have crazy outputs, so I think the wrestling could play a big factor. And also just the fact that he's 25 years old, there's kind of more room to improve there. So, he's only really going to be getting better. So, therefore, I'll be riding with the young Mexican. I have him via UD, but I could also see a TKO in this fight too, knockout TKO. He does have hands. I think Ode Osbourne has been finished with the hands a couple times as well, so I could see that happening. Ryan, you like the sub, so multiple methods of victory for Rodriguez in this one.
The only thing that scares me here, and I'm big on Rodriguez, I think he's a great parlay piece, but Ode's got a significant reach advantage, and also, like you guys mentioned, 1 fight in the UFC for Rodriguez, and then they throw him on this card. You could say that, it hypes him up, it's great for him, but at the same time, you could overextend and get caught by a vet. So, we've seen that plenty of times, especially with young guys that are highly touted prospects. So that kind of scares me. But at the end of the day, I think Rodriguez is going to get this done. I think he's got a good head on his shoulders, so I'm riding with him.
Yeah, and I like that point you just made there too, Luke, where people will say that, you're in this position to fight Mexican Independence Day, you're on the main card for this. A lot of people will be like, that'll hype you up. But pressure can make or break people, so that does go both ways.
It's very true, Zach. Like I said, I disagree with the card placement on this fight. I don't. That's because there are some bangers on the prelims that I think deserve, with guys who have built bigger names for themselves that I feel deserve on Mexican Independence Day to be on that main card slot. Because that's like, as a Mexican-born fighter fighting on Mexican Independence Day, that's the highest honor you could possibly have. And I think it's just a shame that a guy who's coming in only 1 fight in the UFC, while being a Mexican-born fighter, is fighting on the main card. When you have guys like Manuel Torres and Ignacio Bahamondes who have been building names for themselves, flashy knockouts, just ridiculous masterclass performances, getting subjected to the prelims.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I guess Dana wants to get the people pumped up to pay for this pay-per-view before it comes time for this pay-per-view to start. But All right, let's move on. The next fight we have.
I got an interruption.
All right, let's hear it.
My roommate Chase just got home. He won a lot of money betting on Bilal when we were all against Bilal. He just mentioned me that Bahamondes is training partners with Bilal and that he's a lock.
Okay, all right, so he's a teammate then of Mondo El Toro Gutierrez. Hey, Mondo, if you're listening, want to help us get him on the pod?
But we all rode Torres, so it's a little bit of information. But
yeah, if Mondo can get him on, I might resent my Torres pick. All right, let's move on to the next fight. We have Daniel Zellhuber coming in at -235, kind of steep in my opinion, versus Esteban Ribovics at +190. Zellhuber is 15-1 and is 3-1 in the UFC, opposed to Ribovics, who is 13-1 and is 2-1 in the UFC. Both guys here are Dana White Contender Series alums. Let's hear your guys' take on this one.
Luke, you going or am I?
You go.
All right.
I don't know who I got this one. This one's a toss up.
I don't think the odds should be this far gone. And because of that, I feel like from a bettor's perspective, you have to take Ribovics. But at the same time, I'm noticing now that Ribovics has an 8-inch reach disadvantage versus Zellhuber. So I could also just see, which is huge. I didn't know. I overlooked that before until we just started talking about him now. But fuck, man. Ribovics got Terence McKinney out of there in like 35 seconds in his last fight. He got called up on short notice for his UFC debut in like a week or two. Put on a performance, went the distance, fought hard the entire time. So the cardio's there, especially now coming off a full training camp. He's looked good in his last fight, in his other fight too, besides his last one. Rising prospects, both of them. But given this now, I think Mexican-born fighter, 15-1, third versus 13-1. I feel like Zellhuber is going to be able to pick him apart at range. I think this goes to a decision, and just based off damage and just significant strikes, Zellhuber is going to get this one done.
Yeah, I think I'm with you too, right? I think just when you got almost a 5-inch, 4.5-inch leg reach advantage and an 8-inch reach advantage, it's so hard to bet against a guy that has that kind of advantage. Obviously, Esteban had that crazy knockout, but I think a lot of people are favoring him more so because of that crazy knockout. And it's kind of just Terence. That's what Terence McKinney does. I mean, he'll go on a little streak. He'll win a couple, and then he gets knocked out in 3 crazy ways, back-to-back fights. I'm on Zellhuber here. I think just the reach advantage it's going to be hard. That's a lot of reach, man.
Yeah, I will say both of these guys do fight out of very legit gyms. You have Zellhuber fighting out of Extreme Couture and Esteban out of Killcliff FC with Henry Hoof and Robbie Lawler. So that both these guys are going to be well coached, and both of these guys can fight anywhere. I mean, they can fight on their feet, they can fight on the ground. Wherever this fight goes, both guys are equipped to fight there. And I might have overlooked this reach advantage as well, but just in my mind, I really didn't think that Zellhuber should be a -235 favorite. But again, that reach advantage probably speaks, so maybe that line isn't as inaccurate as I initially thought. But I initially was going with Ribovics at that plus near 200 mark, but it was just because of the odds. Again, with those heavy discrepancy in odds, I liked Ribovics at that plus money. But I think you guys have actually swayed me over to Zellhuber. So I think Zellhuber gets the job done now, but I don't want to bet him at that -235. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, and like I said when we kicked this fight off, this is the fight for me that I'm like, I really don't know. It's hard for me to pick either one of those guys. I'm probably going to stay away in terms of betting, other than the 10-leg parlay I'm going to play. But I think this is one, as a fan, it's a good up and coming fight. I think we enjoy it too. It's going to be
this should be a good one. This should be a good one.
I'm probably going to take both of them, if I'm going to be completely honest. They'll probably I'll have one leg with like the same 2 guys, maybe like a 3-legger, and then it'll be like locks, and then boom, you have Zellhuber to make me a little bit of money, and then Ribovics to make me a lot of money.
Yeah, it might not be a bad play.
All right, let's get into this banger next. Come
on.
All
right, now the night starts, boys. We have Brian T. City Ortega at +155 versus the emo kid Diego Lopes at -185. Ortega is 16-3, while being 8-3 in the UFC. Lopes comes in at 25-6 and is 4-1 in the UFC. Ryan, we'll kick it off with you here. I know Diego's your boy. What do you have?
Yeah, you already know. I mean, I said it before when they were supposed to fight in the last pod that we did. I still have Diego Lopes. He, like I said before, he got shafted in his last fight, switching up Ortega, supposed to fight at 145, then moved up to 155, and then had to fight Dan Ige on short notice at 165. Both guys, Ortega and Lopes, took that fight on like 3 weeks' notice. Dan Ige, I don't think a lot of people realize this, and to the point where Diego Lopes did not look good in that third round, is he was supposed to fight in 2 weeks, so he had already gone through what was essentially a full training camp and then didn't have to cut weight. So there was no issues there on cardio. And while Diego Lopes, no camp, no time to prepare, cut down to 145, boosted back up, had to maintain weight at 155 after cutting down to 145 the night before. And then after that was told he had to cut a little bit more weight after rehydrating down back to 165 to make weight for his fight with Dan Ige. He was doing very good against Dan Ige, had a couple slick submissions against him, almost got him out of there. And then by the third round, obviously the cardio and all that factors started playing, and he didn't look too great, but he hung in there, ate Ige's best shots, got kicked. He got hit with it was shin to chin, and then just brought Ige down and controlled him in the second round for the remainder of that fight. I think here, power is going to be the biggest play in this. I think Diego Lopes with the full training camp has the cardio to go hard for all 3 rounds. And grappling, these guys just I could be wrong on this, but I know Diego Lopes and Ortega both have sick grappling ability. I think they just cancel each other out, and this is going to mainly be like a fight where you see like a lot of scrambles, a lot of high grappling, like high level grappling, and it's going to mainly be a stand-up war. And I think with the power of Diego Lopes and the damage that he puts on opponents, either by KO or decision, he wins that fight.
Yeah, Luke, before you go for a second, Ryan, I want to circle back to a point you made about Lopez's cardio. I think he has displayed that he does have the ability to have that cardio, even in his short notice debut fight against Movsar Evloev. Even in that fight, end of the third round, he almost had that knee bar sunk in. So he has shown the ability where he does have the cardio. So I'm not necessarily crazy concerned about the cardio aspect of it like some people might be because of that Ige fight.
No, definitely not. And to another point, I think a 3-round fight favors Diego Lopes because he's going to be able to push the pace constantly.
I agree 100%.
It's weird, and it's a weird spot in Ortega's career. He's fought for the belt twice, once against Max Holloway, who KO'd him by doctor stoppage, and then Volkanovski, who should have KO'd him by doctor stoppage. I mean, he had to be helped up to his stool. So, like I said, I think you're at this point in Ortega's career, even though he's 16-3, so it's weird to say, where he's almost like a gatekeeper to the belt while also being right there for a title. If that makes sense. Like,
he's a gatekeeper unless he wins this one, then he's probably going to get
but then
shot.
he gets
a title shot if he wins this fight.
he gets a title shot, absolutely. But then he either gets fed to a monster of Ilia Topuria or Max Holloway, who ran circles around him for 4 rounds before I had to throw in the towel. So it's just a tricky spot for Ortega to be in regardless.
Yeah, I think you hit all the spots, really. I think definitely watching that last fight with the Ige, you were a little bit concerned with his cardio, but like you said, Ryan, like there were so many different factors that led to that. Also, Dan Ige is a different fighter than Brian Ortega. Dan Ige pushes the pace. He's always pushing forward, and that was a fucking phenomenal fight. It just happened to be like very bad for Diego Lopes in terms of planning. You're planning for one guy, one style, and you get a complete different style guy. And he still shined. Like he shined. He easily won that fight. No one questioned it. My thing with fucking Brian Ortega, and like it happened in the last fight that got canceled, he looked terrible. Obviously he was sick, didn't make weight, and then they rescheduled it. I don't know if you guys saw the picture of him, but he looks terrible again. Like he just doesn't look like he did when he came out against Yair in Mexico City. Like he looks different. But there's something about Brian Ortega, like jumps up, sprains his ankle or whatever in the Yair fight, gets knocked around for 1 round, and then subs him in the second. He's getting beat up by Volk in that title fight and was maybe 5 seconds away from choking out arguably the best featherweight of all time. So he's such a weird fighter. And like you said, like he's like a gatekeeper for the title, but he's also always there. I mean, for the last 5 years, he's been the number 3 featherweight in the world, minus Ilia, not including Ilia's rise recently. he's been that guy. If you're coming up in the featherweight ranks, you either lose to Ortega, you lose to Max, or you lose to Volk as a champ. And I think that's just something that I'm weighing here. I'm like, this guy he's one fight away from a title again. And I think he does match up pretty good against Ilya. Obviously, standing, he gets his ass beat. But if it goes to the ground, he needs one opportunity, couple hooks in, that fight could be over. Like you guys said, they're both great on the ground. I think they're both black belts. But there's a different aspect with Ortega being a Gracie black belt. There's different levels to black belts, which we very well know. Alex Pereira is a black belt in jiu-jitsu.
I mean, you hear Islam talk. He's like, who gave him black belt, brother?
Yeah,
So, I mean,
exactly. I don't think Lopez will knock him out. I think he hurts him a lot. I think his crazy furies, I think those knees to the gut and to the chest are really gonna fuck with Ortega. But like you said, I think I wouldn't be surprised if there's something that happens. They get on the ground and Ortega gets a triangle, or Ortega gets the back somehow. He's able to finish you anywhere on the ground. And I think obviously Mosvar had great grappling too. And Lopez was able to survive all of that and even have better submission attacks. So I'm going to ride Lopez. I think Lopez gets this done. I think he's on a title shot up, and it's a very healthy, new guy in the division. This featherweight division has been knocked around for the last couple of years. Now Ilya is the champ. I think that's a great fight too. I'm going to ride Lopez, but I definitely am going to sprinkle a second round sub by yours truly, T City. I think it's not out of the realm of possibility. I think that's an easy play, and I'm going to parlay it with a play I'm going to play in this next fight that I think I'm going to surprise you guys with too. But I think T City's very live here. I think he's a live bet.
Look, you got me a little concerned now because I'm thinking about all the points you made, and then you brought up BSD versus DP.
Yeah,
this is the exact same situation.
This is the situation.
I will say Diego Lopez, I think, all things considered for comparing them, is better than DSP. So,
but you know what I mean. It's just like I ranked number 13 going to number 3. Vet been there, fought for the title multiple times, and it's just like So I could very well see Ortega proving he still is that guy at the end of the day.
Yeah, and he is, man. He is that guy.
Absolutely.
He is. So for me, this one came down to the point where Diego Lopez is one of the hottest commodities in the UFC right now and has all the momentum in the world. Where Ortega, on the other hand, like you touched on, Luke, has been scaring me as of recent, just based off of how he's looked and whatnot. I mean, you have all the weight stuff, and then he seemed like, you want to say he was sick, which he probably was sick. He was sick, but his whole demeanor just seemed really just depressing. Just the vibe just feels off with Ortega. And my gut just has a big Lopez feeling in it. And I think that also stems from the fact that this 3-round fight, it favors Lopez 100%. I don't think you could really pick a world in which Ortega is favored by the 3-round fight, especially given how fast Lopez starts, and Ortega doesn't start as fast as Lopez. Ortega usually climbs back, and he's able to climb back in the fights. And with this being 3 rounds, I don't know if he'll have enough time to climb back if Diego gets off to a fast start. Unless he's able to, find some sort of submission, which again I'm not saying that's unlikely given it's Brian Ortega. That's 100% a possibility, but that's kind of the way I see Ortega winning. I think Lopez takes this one via UD.
It's another thing to point out is, which I didn't know at the time until like they were supposed to originally fight, is Ortega was bulking up to fight at 155. So he was planning on making that transition. So I mean, he might look a little disparaged, but he's always a gamer. He's always there to fight. I think Ortega's. I think this just derails Ortega's plans in his career, where he has to, either defend or give up that number 3 spot in the division. But he was also planning. He has plans to move up in weight. So
Zach, I just want to hit on one more thing that you mentioned too. I definitely agree. This 3-rounder heavily sways it for me in Lopez's favor. I think if this is a 5-rounder, I'm 100% betting T City. I think he has shown that he could weather the storms for 5 rounds. And like you guys talked about Lopez's cardio, there's no question about, T City's cardio. But I wish this was a 5-round fight. Obviously, this is a great card to be on, but I kind of wish this was like a fight night headliner.
I'll tell you right now, I hate when fights with title implications as big as this one are not 5 rounds.
I agree.
When it's a title eliminator, it should be 5 rounds. I don't understand why I guess in this one, because it's not even the co-main, I guess it's tough to make it a 5-round fight. But when you have guys that are fighting for that title shot, it should be a 5-round fight, bottom line, in my opinion.
As is another question I'll pose is, do you think the winner of this gets the shot at the belt next, especially when you have Volk winning in the wings, or do you think someone fights Volk on a co-main in 5 rounds? You know what I mean?
That's all up to Volk. At the end of the day, I think that's all up to Volk. And regardless of whether or not they get the next title shot after this one, the title shot following that one will go to the winner of this fight. I mean, I don't know if either of these guys would want to wait out that long, but if they were to wait out that long, they'd almost be guaranteed that title shot after Volk if Volk gets it, decides he wants it, kind of thing, you know.
I think it's clear path to who gets the title. I think if Lopes wins, he gets the next title shot easy. I think that is because he hasn't fought, or let's say Volk. My bad. T City already fought Volk and Max, but Lopes hasn't fought Max or Topuria. So right. I think that's clear. I think if Ortega wins, and he easily could fight Ilya if Ilya wins, and easily could fight Max again. But I think if Lopes wins, it's definitely gonna be him next.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so let's move on to the co-main. We have Alexa Grasso coming in at -140, the favorite, versus Valentina Shevchenko at +120. Grasso has a career record of 16-3-1 and is 8-3-1 in the UFC, compared to Valentina, who is 23-4-1 and is 12-3-1 in the UFC. Luke, you seemed excited to talk about this one, so we'll kick it off with you. Let's hear the surprise.
Yeah, I'm all over Grasso. I think Shevchenko's done her thing in the UFC. The Bullet, she's been around for a bit. She's the GOAT at that division. I just think it's time. And I heard a great comparison today when I was looking into these fights. It's kind of like when Volk fought Max. He fought him the first time, beat him clearly, beat Max clearly the first time. And the second time, you're like, it could go either way. I think Grasso won that fight. I think Max beat Volk the second fight. And then Grasso and Volk, I think, are comparable, that they're both going to kick this into overdrive now. Mexican Independence Day. Grasso's their person. She's their champ at this weight. I think they're only champ right now, only Mexican champ currently.
Yeah,
right?
She is.
And I think she's just going to put on a clinic. I think her power in the first 2 fights showed a lot. And I think as Shevchenko gets older, you're more susceptible to that power. And I think Grasso's in her prime, while Shevchenko's on the tail end of her career. I'm all over Grasso. I think it will be UD. I don't think she gets her out of here, but I think she puts on a boxing clinic, keeps it on the feet. And I'm super excited for this fight. Not a lot of women's fights these days that get me super excited, but this is definitely one of them. I got Grasso by UD.
Luke, I couldn't agree more with everything you just said. And I think in terms of their last 2 fights, I thought Grasso won clearly in both of them. But given that, I also don't want to see a women's flyweight scenario where Shevchenko does win, and then you have to run that back a 4th time. No. Sort of like Moreno, Figueiredo, especially when you have all these women coming up, Manon Fiora, Erin Blanchfield, Macy Barber, Rose Namajunas, all making their way to the come up. And I think it's just time for us, like as fans, to see new blood come and compete for that title. And if Grasso can hold that down, then eventually maybe move down or move up for the bantamweight fight, or maybe Zhang Weili finally gets her chance at double champ status and moves up to flyweight. There's so many exciting fights for women's divisions if Grasso can get this done, and as fans, we really need her to.
Yeah, I did not expect all 3 of us to be on Grasso, but here we are. I also like Alexa Grasso on this one, and a part of that being is I also thought she won that last fight, and with Valentina exiting the prime of her career and Grasso getting into it, I think we'll see a big change in like the skill levels from the last fight to this one. Not necessarily saying that Valentina is going to drop off or whatnot, but Grasso just has way more room to improve from their last fight to now. And with me thinking that she won her last fight, why would I not take her in this one? Well, I'm probably not going to bet this fight until the time comes that night. When I do bet it, my money will be on Alexa Grasso. All right.
Before we do this, I want to retract the statement I said earlier about who gets the next title after the T-City Lopes fight. I think if T-City wins, he gets a title fight regardless. He's at that point of his career where you give it to him. I think if Lopes wins, you give him Volk. That's how I feel. I'm taking back how I said. I could see them giving Lopes it, but it's still kind of fast-tracked. And I think Volk sat there, and I think he loves fighting new guys. And I think that would be a perfect opportunity for him to get back in there. And then if Ilya wins again and Volk wins that fight, I think easily do Ilya Volk again. I just wanted to clear that up because I'm sitting here looking at the pictures of Lopes and Ortega, and I'm like, I'm changing how I feel about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of think that if Volk wants that title shot, he'll get it.
Okay.
So I don't think
that's fair.
Volk will need to fight Diego in order to get to that title shot. It's more so, in my opinion, how I feel on it is if Volk wants that title shot, he gets it, and Diego can either sit on the side. If he were to win and beat T-City, he can sit on the sideline and wait for that title shot to come after Volk's shot. But I don't know if I necessarily see Diego doing that, given like where he is in his career. It seems like he likes to stay active, so I don't know if he'll sit out that long, just given that Max and Ilya title shot isn't for a couple months, and then you want to wait another 4 months for Volk, and then you want to wait another 3 months for your shot. I don't know if he'll stay inactive for that long. So
yeah,
I don't really know.
It's weird
because he could easily fight. Like, let's say Lopes gets this done, stays healthy, he could fight Volk in 2 months, 3 months.
Yeah.
But like you said, let's say Ilya wins, I could see the Volk rematch. I don't think if Max wins, they give Volk that title shot again. I just don't. I don't think anybody really wants to see that again. I think Volk kind of has Max's number, so I think.
Yeah,
I think Lopes would be a good buffer. You know,
it'll be. I think regardless of whoever wins, it's going to be a weird place for the featherweight division. Just because
the timing of this fight fitting into the title shot implications is just very awkward. It's very awkward having a fight with like this heavy of title implications with this timing, where if they win, you're not going to see the title shot for a while. So it is a little bit of a weird situation.
Because my thing is, even if Max, Max, I mean, if he wins and beats Ilya, I can almost guarantee that he calls Volk out on the mic because, like, just as a competitor and as a person, you want to avenge. Your loss. I mean, you want to get those
losses back.
It's goat v goat at that point, like
exactly.
So. Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see what happens. I'm very curious to see what happens following that fight. But all right, leading into the main event, we have Sean O'Malley at -135 versus the cardio machine Merab Dvalishvili at +115. I'm going to tell you boys right now, I have 0 notes written down for this fight, but we have O'Malley coming in at 18-1 with a record of 11-1 in the UFC. Versus Merab Dvalishvili, who has a record of 17-4 while being 10-2 in the UFC. Boys, I'm going to let you take it from here because I think a lot of what I'm going to say is based on what you guys say here.
Luke, this is your guy.
You don't want to kick it
Floor
off?
is yours.
I can kick it off. We can play rock, paper, scissors for it, but
you can kick it off.
All right. Give me O'Malley by knockout. Watching Merab fight, he got caught with a left by Marlon Moraes. Fucking, I mean, credit to Dvalishvili. Showed the heart of a lion, somehow stood in there. I think the ref could have stopped that multiple times. I think if that fight's fought today, not in 2021, that fight does get stopped. Henry Cejudo in his last fight caught him with the left hook again, wobbled him, hurt him. I mean, obviously Merab put on the pace and just dominated for the last 2 rounds of that fight. But with a guy, with a striker like O'Malley, if you're susceptible to getting hit like that by multiple people, lesser strikers than O'Malley, I don't see any other way that O'Malley doesn't put him out. He's so open on the feet. If he's not spamming takedowns 24/7, and I think people sleep on O'Malley's takedown defense and just overall ground game, grappling game, jiu-jitsu game. If this is going to remain standing, O'Malley either picks him apart and finds the KO or flash KOs him. I don't see any other way this fight goes.
Yeah, I'm all with you, Rye. I couldn't find my Sugar Sean shirt. I looked for it for like 5 minutes earlier today. I don't know where it is, but I'm all with you. I think at this point, everyone's been saying that Sean has had like the best camp he's had. He's focused. He's ready to go. This is his biggest challenge since Peter Yan, in my opinion. I felt way more confident with him against Aljo than I feel about this fight, just because of the high pace and the high intensity of Merab. Merab has the most takedown attempts in a single UFC fight. Dominated Peter Yan.
You got to break the record too for like most most takedowns in a career in the UFC as well.
It's a very simple striker versus grappler. I think I don't know if Merab's the best grappler at 135 ever, but I think Sugar Sean's got the most power and obviously the best striker, I think, at 135 ever. I think it's simple as that. And like you said, Ryan, I think people sleep on Sugar Sean's jiu-jitsu. I think he's still a purple belt, but he showed that he's done tournaments outside where he's looked great. And Merab got choked out by Ricky Simon. And yeah. This is my long shot. I think I'm going to sprinkle on Sugar Sean to win by sub. I think you could get him out of there. I think if he spans a takedown, he could get him with a guillotine. He's long. I think that's also something that Merab's not used to. He's been fighting smaller guys, more compact guys. And he's long, like you said. The takedown defense is going to be on display. My biggest concern, because I don't think Merab threatens. He doesn't have the submission attempts that Aljo has. He doesn't even have the knockout power of Peter Yan or even Cheeto. I think the biggest thing is going to be the cardio. I think Sugar Sean obviously likes to party a little bit, smokes a bunch of weed. And I think as you get older, especially, that plays a toll. But he prepares his body so much. And I think he's been training so hard for this fight. Like you said, I could easily see him going out there and putting on a clinic, keeping it on the feet just long enough to find that range, because he's going to find it. If it goes 5 rounds and he's still standing going into the 5th, he's going to find it. Merab, even though he doesn't look like he gets tired, he's got, like he said, he's got a big head. He's got a big nose. He's going to open up that cut that Merab had recently. I think he's just going to put on a clinic. I think we're going to stop. People are going to stop saying like, oh, Sugar Sean's kind of had like a fairy tale title reign here. He got the rematch. He knocked out Aljo. I think this is going to be cementing him as like, okay, he's the real deal. He's top 5 in, pound for pound in the UFC. This is coming out party. And I also heard a take today, which I want to get you guys' opinion, that some people are thinking that it might be like a little Jorge Masvidal knockout to start this baby off, with Merab rushing in for a takedown or shooting for a takedown early. Because if Sugar catches him with the knee that he caught Cheeto with, Merab's going to sleep, without a doubt.
Yeah. I think you made a good point, Luke, where you're talking about if this is going to go all 5 rounds, eventually O'Malley's going to find the point. Like, he's going to find that target. And I think that's what seals it for me because, I mean, let's be honest here. If this fight goes to a decision, I think 99% of people will favor Merab in that decision,
100%.
Just given the cardio advantage. It's just, you also mentioned, you touched briefly on, is Merab the best wrestler this division has seen? And the answer is no. I think the answer is no. Yeah, I think Cejudo is a better wrestler than Merab, but does anyone have a gas tank and the wrestling, like the gas tank that allows that a wrestling ability to take over, especially later in fights when you wear people out? That answer is no. No one's like Merab in that aspect. So, like, from the pure wrestling standpoint, Merab isn't necessarily the best wrestler there. But just when you have that level of gas tank, and there's nothing more tiring in fighting than wrestling. Yeah. I think that's been shown time and time again. And to have that kind of gas tank while wrestling is just honestly insane. And that's the thing. He's able to wear out opponents because he can be relentless with his gas tank, pressuring for takedowns. And then you're forcing – I mean, he doesn't have the finishing ability, but then you're forcing your opponents to work back up. And that's what is so tiring for everyone that fights Merab Dvalishvili. And it takes a toll on him. So if this fight were to go the distance, you'd think Merab is probably going to tire him out. But I don't think the fight's going to go the distance. You're going to sit in there for 25 minutes. I don't think he can survive 25 minutes in the octagon with Sean O'Malley. I just really don't. So I am also going to be on Sean O'Malley via knockout, TKO, one of those two. I'm rocking with Sugar. We're all going to be sitting there pumped up, rooting for Sugar when this turns on, and I'm excited for it, boys.
Yeah. I'm so looking forward to seeing like those sub odds 2nd and 3rd. I think that's live, man. I really think that's live. I think I'm going to do a little T-City Sugar Sean round submission prop bet. And I think it's going to be like 10 to win $2,000 or something crazy.
That would be freaking nuts.
But Luke, back to your question, I don't see it in the Jorge Masvidal fashion of like a wait for your guy to run it at you and then flying knee him, get like fastest KO. No. But if he can land it on Cheeto Vera, with the way Merab spans takedowns and Sugar's timing and ability to make reads, I could easily see him landing something very similar.
Yeah, and he's not going to get – the thing is he's not going to get finished. So, like, every every round starts on the feet. Every single round starts on the feet. So, like, O'Malley, I don't want it to happen. He can afford to lose a round and get held down potentially because, the next one, you're starting on your feet. And Merab has to take you down again. And knowing that Merab needs to take you down to win, will open up a lot of opportunities for Sugar in this one.
With Sugar's fight IQ, I absolutely love that round 2, round 3 knockout play with that knee as the predictor that Luke said. He feels him out for a round. Boom.
Even against Peter Yan, didn't he cut him with a knee or was it an elbow? I forget.
It was
exactly.
Yep.
It was a knee.
His last, I mean, he didn't need it against Aljo, but his last couple of fights, he's landed that knee. He's a sniper with that knee. I think he lands at least one. I think it changes how the fight goes. I just don't know if it'll be the knockout one, but I think he lands one for sure.
Hey, Luke, this one is a good argument for my no MMA math kind of thing. Because if you look at you look at both their fights against Petr Yan, and you want to do the math there, a lot of people would be like, oh, you look at what Merab did to Petr Yan. That was domination. Sugar had that little iffy split decision. People want to say Yan won. Some people think O'Malley won. So I like this. This is a prime example of my anti-MMA math argument that I bring up.
Yeah, and I agree with that. But I think the difference a little bit is because even Yan was getting O'Malley down, but going into that fight, Sugar wasn't prepared at all for Yan to do those takedowns. That was a great coaching aspect of Yan to be like, okay, this tall guy hasn't been tested on the ground. I have decent takedowns. And I think the length just comes into such an aspect with the takedowns, the getting up off the ground, getting to the fucking to the cage and working with the cage, getting up. I think that has such a bigger aspect. And like you said, I don't think Sugar's threatened at all to be finished by Merab at all.
No.
Like, so even if he gets him down, I don't think he's concerned like he would be with Petr Yan. Like,
exactly,
this guy could catch me on the ground.
Yeah, you're not worried about like Aljo, for example, backpacking you and attacking your neck the whole time. I mean, it's just a completely different style of wrestling posed by Merab Dvalishvili, where the finishing ability is just not very prominent at all.
No, Yan is a way more complete fighter than Merab. I mean, especially with the Sugar mindset for Sugar going into that fight with Yan gives you a lot more to worry about.
Yeah,
a ton more to worry about.
He's a scarier fight.
Exactly.
As Sugar would say, he'd be that's a fight that scares me.
One, he has slick takedowns, but two, he's also a gamer on the feet, so you have to worry about both. Yan can do it all, and he has probably one of the deepest bags in the UFC in terms of just takedowns, striking, combos, everything. Yan is a pretty much fully complete MMA fighter, whereas Merab relies on one thing. So you prep for that one thing. We haven't seen Merab striking, outside of ground and pound, be anything impressive. Aljo, you have to worry about the submissions. Sugar has great footwork. He avoids those clinch spots. And that eventually let him second round, steps back as Aljo shoots in for looping overhand right, bang, knocks him out. So I think preparation for this is they know what what Merab's going to bring to the table. You don't know what Yan's going to bring to the table because Yan can make those reads mid-fight and switch it up and has the ability to switch it up, whereas Merab is a one-trick pony, so to speak.
Yeah, I agree. So is it parlay time, fellas?
Are we doing a parlay without Big Bro here? We're going to wait.
Should we? Yeah, I mean, it depends. Do you guys want to we could just text about it or we can throw something together real quick. Either way, I'm fine with it. We'll get something out for Saturday, though.
I think we wait. We're getting close to this NFL game. I got to get a couple parlays in for that. And let's
I was kind of thinking the same thing.
We'll drop one tomorrow. So be on the lookout on socials. We'll drop a graphic with one safe play, which I think there's a great opportunity to get a good safe parlay in this week. And I think there's also a great opportunity with some underdogs on this card to get a nice little long shot.
Yeah, boys, little teaser. Maybe we do something along the lines of like even for a long shot, dude, what if we do like Sugar, Alexa Grasso? I mean, they're both very, very slight favorites. We could throw Manuel Torres in there, who's a very, very slight favorite. They're all three toss-ups and then one more leg. And that's going to be pretty damn good odds. And I would be all over that. But, boys, it's been a pleasure talking fights. It always is.
Absolutely.
See you boys on Saturday.
Yes, sir.
See you Saturday.